My name is Joseph Pryor. I reside at 607 Whistling Swan Drive, and I'm a former Greensboro police officer. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, I would like to thank you for assisting me when asking Mr. Shakan the question why I was not initially covered in the Lipscomb versus the City of Greensboro, GPD, and the Joseph Pryor lawsuit, especially since the city's 2 investigations found Mr. Lipscomb's claims were false and I had done nothing wrong. However, thousands of taxpayer dollars were misappropriated and paid to Mr. Lipscomb in a settlement, even though the city had previously found his claims to be false. Mr. Shakan stated on camera that they had a city policy that would not allow for me to be covered in the lawsuit, even though I had done nothing wrong. My first question to Mr. Shakan is, what specific policy are you referring to? When was it enacted? And may I have a copy? The second question is, why did the city violate its own policy to reimburse me $5,000 regarding the settlement with Mr. Lipscomb? Next, if you juxtapose 87-year-old Miss Eva Foster's lawsuit with Mr. Lipscomb's, Ms. Foster is 87-year-old and was brutally manhandled and handcuffed by a white GPD officer, causing a fracture in her wrist. She had committed no crime and was not under arrest. The city did not conduct a mandatory investigation regarding Mrs. Foster's injury. The city did not produce a book of white police officers displaying their DMV pictures to identify the white officer that injured Ms. Foster. This is inconsistent with the black book of black police officers displaying their DMV pictures, of which I am pictured. My questions are as follows. Why is there no white book to locate the white officer who used excessive force on Mrs. Foster? Why no investigation has been conducted? And when will an actual investigation of that officer take place? And how can the citizens even trust the GPD when 87-year-old women are being mistreated, to include physically, and there is no investigational consequence?
I think the attorney said to you, and the mayor said, that we have discussed this, we have given some direction, we're waiting on some information, and then we'll have a decision.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest of it is with the attorney.
Okay. What city?
Actually, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, because of the fact that Mr. Pryor is involved in lawsuits against the city, as you've heard from me on other occasions, I'm going to recommend the council not engage him to discuss those issues, nor will I answer his questions because he is represented by counsel, and under the rules of professional conduct, I cannot address him.
I'm asking for a city policy, that's all.
With all due respect, I'm not going to, as I've recommended to council, I recommend you not engage Mr. Pryor, and I'm not going to engage Mr. Pryor either during this speakers from the floor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Mr. Cherry.
Charles Cherry, 2104 Liberty Valley Road. Diane Bellamy Small, you lied on me and were stupid enough to do it at a recorded council meeting. I will expose you, dominate you, and then I will sue you. Diane, you are a corrupt, stupid liar. Mr. Terrence Lipscomb sued the city, the GPD, and former Officer Joseph Pryor. According to 2 separate GPD investigations, Mr. Lipscomb's claims were false. However, before a judge could review the merits of the case, Robbie allowed Denise Turner Roth to misappropriate thousands of taxpayer dollars and paid Mr. Lipscomb. Robbie, you committed malfeasance and indicted the GPD's investigative process when paying off false claims. Robbie, allocating funds to pay a claim you know to be false is borderline criminal. Citizens, juxtapose Robbie's malfeasance with the claim of Miss Eva Foster. Miss Foster is 87 years old. 87 years old. She is a former educator, entertainer, and a pillar in our community. A white GPD officer brutally manhandled Miss Foster. The officer handcuffed her and pushed her to the floor, resulting in Miss Foster having a fractured wrist, among other complications. Miss Foster was not a threat, had committed no crime, and was not under arrest. Miss Foster complained of the incident. The mandatory use of force investigation was never conducted, so it is unclear if the officer assaulted Ms. Foster or just used excessive force on her. City officials, primarily Yvonne Johnson, deceived Ms. Foster. The deception resulted in Ms. Foster filing a lawsuit. Robbie, citizens are demanding and authorizing you to use their tax dollars to immediately have the city's designee sit down with Ms. Foster and her attorney and work out a fair compensation for Ms. Foster. We want you to order an investigation of the officer that used the excessive force on Ms. Foster. Also order an investigation of the officer's supervisors that knew of the excessive force and did nothing. Robbie, this is your defining moment. The decision is simple. Take care of Ms. Foster immediately or feel the wrath of the community. Also, I've been informed that certain council members have inquired about my interest in a job outside of Greensboro. I've decided that I will use my MBA, my experience as a stellar police commander, and my superior intellect when I return to the city. Thanks anyway. Robbie and Yvonne, Dr. Wade told you what to do. Robbie and Yvonne, what are you going to do regarding Ms. Foster and the mandatory investigations that were never done? And why did you misappropriate thousands of taxpayer dollars to pay off a claim you knew to be fraudulent?
Once again, Mayor, as Mr. Cherry is involved in lawsuits against the city, I will ask the council to not engage Mr. Cherry nor answer his questions.
The use of excessive force on an 87-year-old woman by the GPD has nothing to do with my 2 federal lawsuits against the city, and soon to be 3. Please answer my questions.
Again, sir, thank you.
The use of excessive force on an 87-year-old woman by the GPD has nothing to do with my 2 federal lawsuits against the city, and soon to be 3. Please answer my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Reverend